Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Divided Films, the podcast where we talk about movies that audiences and critics do not agree on. With me, as always, is Keith, my co-host.
Hello!
And joining us on the podcast today, our very good friend, Sabrina Blackburn. Welcome, Sabrina.
Hi, everyone. Hi, listeners.
So good to have you on, Sabrina, as a guest for the first time and hopefully not the last.
Yeah, this is my first time recording a podcast. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is, we're opening a whole new world for you, Sabrina, the world of podcasting, one which we will never return from.
This might be my new thing now, like recording podcasts, my new quarantine hobby.
If you become a huge podcast star, don't forget us, okay? This is where you got your start.
Yeah,
You're
I'll never
hooked
forget
now.
the first.
You're in it. You're in it.
You're in the world now. So today we are talking about the 2006 comedy She's the Man, starring Amanda Bynes and directed by Andy Fickman. This movie falls into the category of having a negative score with critics and a positive score with audiences. On Rotten Tomatoes, the scores with critics, 43% approval from critics and a 79% approval from audiences. So 36% difference there, quite significant. And the critics' consensus on She's the Man: Shakespeare's wit gets lost in translation with She's the Man's broad slapstick, predictable jokes, and unconvincing plotline. So that's your just little synopsis there on the divide in opinions on She's the Man.
Ouch.
And it's so funny too, because I feel like the reasons that Rotten Tomatoes is giving this negative score are all the reasons why I would give this a positive score. Like the unconvincing plot line, that's fine with me. Like a broad slapstick, sure, why not? Amanda Bynes as the star, I think that's like right up her alley. So real quick, what we'll go around and say like what our experiences with this movie and what we think of this divide between critics and audiences. We'll start with Sabrina. What was your take on this movie and its divided opinion?
I mean, this is actually one of my favorite films, so I completely disagree with the critics. I mean, it's everything you want in a movie, like a feel-good film. I mean, it has it on paper. She's the man, it says it in the title. It's really funny. It's just easy to watch. You can throw it on. I mean, I saw this movie when I was 16, 17, so it's everything I want. Amanda Bynes, like icon, the early 2000s.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Channing Tatum, hello. Like
skinny Channing Tatum.
He was so skinny, but still has like that amazing jawline,
Yeah, he had that since he was born.
This was like pre Step Up days, pre
Same
22.
year. That was a big year. 2006 was like his breakout year.
Yeah, this is like his first big film, and he is
Yeah.
actually really brilliant at it. He's so good. He like plays the straight man, but he still like has that kind of comedy underlying. It's so good. And David Cross is in it. Like, hello.
Oh man, love David Cross.
Comedic genius. I mean, it's just a fun, feel-good film. Like, I don't know what you want from this kind of film. Like, do you want like elevated Shakespeare? No. Like, I'll go to the theater to see Shakespeare. I want to see Amanda Bynes on screen in a wig. Hello.
I demand like Shakespeare everywhere I go, including the cinema.
Yeah, we're not seeing high art here. This is like an early 2000s comedy, so I get what I want and I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely like in that like tradition of like ridiculous but like just overall like hilarious 2000s comedies, right? Like it fits like the bill. What do you think, Keith?
Oh, this is
Lost
Hook
for
all
words.
I know
Keith
this
says
no
it all.
this is Hook all over again. I feel like I'm definitely the bad guy here. I didn't hate this movie. I felt bad for this movie. It reminded me like take the worst SNL sketch that you can think of and everything why you don't like it and apply it to this movie. I didn't hate it, but it made me appreciate other movies yeah, it made me appreciate other movies like 10 Things I Hate About You or Mrs. Doubtfire or I didn't once
Keith, are we about to fight it out
I
here? Because
guess no, I get we've been friends
Ding,
for
ding,
a while. We've
ding.
been friends for a while, and I always have to laugh that there are some things that we always disagree on. Like when I like something, you're like, I don't like this song, and you like this movie, and I'm not even lukewarm on it. I just feel bad for it.
You
oh,
feel bad for it.
I know.
that's like a
I
Interesting.
do kind of
personal
have to
attack
laugh.
on me.
I
Well,
know, and I that's to quote Billie Eilish, I am the bad guy. Like
You are the bad guy.
I this is Hook all over again, but I
well,
do.
let me ask you this though, Keith. Did you laugh like with this movie, or did you like laugh at this movie?
mm, There is only one moment when I laughed, and it was the ending, not because of the ending, but it was when she's going to meet Channing Tatum at the end, and it's like I'm
Mm-hmm.
the janitor, like I'm just closing stuff down. I was
I
like
just
this.
got to turn the sprinklers
I
on.
that
Oh
it
yeah,
was such a
classic.
surprise. It was like humor from another movie, and it was like
Oh,
where was this the whole time?
well,
But
that's kind of humor
I
you would
wa-
see in like something, yeah,
but when
like
I
a
yeah
scary movie or something.
no
Like a
it,
kind of
it was
faked
something
out
out of
sort of
like
joke.
21 Jump Street to go into Channing Tatum territory. But when I say I feel bad about this movie, once again, think of the not even the worst, the lamest SNL sketch that you know and why you don't like it. Maybe goes on too long. The joke, it, I I wasn't laughing. I felt bad for a lot of people. And granted, I like Amanda Bynes, and I actually think both her and Amanda Channing Tatum really kind of give it their all. But it really comes down a lot to like the script, which is shocked. Like this movie should have worked in its concoction, but it just didn't for me.
Okay, well, I'll say this: this is my first time watching She's the Man. I just for some reason never got around to it, so
Crazy.
I'm a newbie here, and I have to say, like, as ridiculous as I found this movie to be, I did laugh a lot, and I feel like I laughed when the movie wanted me to laugh. Like, I actually, you know, it wasn't like I was ironically laughing at it. Like, I thought it was hilarious. So on that basic like requirement for a comedy to be good, I did think it met that. Like Amanda Bynes to me is freaking hilarious in
She's
this.
a comedic genius. Like she
I
really is. Like
I
her
think
reactions are amazing. Like everything
oh my
about
god,
it.
her like disguise her character of Sebastian, like the way she speaks as like a girl pretending to be a man, is so insane. It is so like a crazy person speaking. I could not stop laughing at just her whole like voice and physical performance. So, on that note alone, I feel like this is succeeding as a comedy. Maybe it's failing in terms of like a comprehensible story that like makes sense on any level. I mean, the stakes for the Amanda Bynes character are so low. Like she's going through a lot just to play a game of soccer. So the whole time I'm thinking like if she gets caught, who cares? If she gets caught and like, can't play soccer, big deal. But just her whole like shtick as this like Sebastian character, I couldn't help but constantly laugh at it. Like for the one scene that I keep going back to is when she's in the restaurant and she's trying to impress her like schoolmates, and she has her friends like pretend to be girls that he's like shooting down. Like it that was like so nuts to me, but again, so funny the way like she's like slapping their butts and saying like, "Oh, I tap that." Like she's
Damn
talking
that.
like a southerner who's got hit in the head by like a sledgehammer or something. it's
Yeah. And
it's
then she
nuts.
goes into like scare mode. She's like, Janelle bra. Like she's so
Yeah,
like
it weird like this is her take on like horny 2000s boys,
Mhm.
and I don't think it was that far off.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean,
this
you were guys were, when this movie came out around the same age as
Yeah,
them, so you tell
I was
me.
not like these guys, but I definitely knew a lot of guys like them,
Yeah.
and
yeah
so I
this
enjoyed seeing this roast of that sort of like archetype.
this
Mhm.
movie definitely took advantage of like the bro culture at
Hmm.
like really took like Channing Tatum encompasses that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Channing Tatum, you're right. He has like really funny reactions of like what the hell's going on, like what being confused by the Sebastian, like Viola as Sebastian character. I think this movie also kind of does what a few other comedies in this decade did, which is like someone disguising themselves as someone from the opposite sex, right? There was like Big Mama's House, there was White Chicks, which also had the racial element to it.
That's so good.
There was a few other movies like that, and the reason why it doesn't really even work, it works even less with some of those other movies because with these characters disguising themselves as like a woman or something, a specific person, they're around people who know that person, right? Like White Chicks, they're around the friends of those women that they're disguising themselves as, and no one knows the difference, right? At least in this movie, no one knows the Sebastian character, so like everyone's like, yeah, okay, sure, why not? That's always bugged me with some of these other like disguising like gender
Yeah.
switch movies.
Why not? It's just a really feminine, looking man
Very
with a
feminine
bad
boy,
wig on,
but
like totally
who are
fine.
we to judge if it's
Well,
a very effeminate looking boy?
I know. Well, I can't remember.
Monique.
Monique. Yeah,
Monique.
Monique. Says like, "Oh, you look like your brother from behind," but her brother.
She does not. She does
No,
not at
no, no,
all.
she doesn't. But doesn't like he was a foot taller. He was like definitely a foot
Yeah.
taller than her. And like at the end when he does go to school, everyone like recognizes him immediately. And I'm like, wait a minute, they're standing next to each other. He has a couple inches on her.
Yeah,
Like
no, that's true. At the end, when the real Sebastian comes back,
Yeah.
people don't know the difference. I think it kind of works when they paint his face. No one can
Mhm.
really see his face. That kind of works, I guess. But
Suspension
again,
of disbelief, just like they're
this
twins.
movie,
They
this
look
movie needs a lot of
a
suspension
lot of
of
that.
disbelief. Um, And then yeah, they set up this whole idea to try to convince the audience that they look alike, right? Like the girlfriend, oh, you look like your brother from behind, and the mother is like, God, you two look similar. Like
Very
they
much.
really try to pound that into you just so
Mhm.
you can believe the idea that she can disguise herself as him,
Mhm.
which like again she really can't. But that's the world of 2000s comedies. People are just so easily fooled.
It's so true.
but I mean, the one reason why I'm like shocked, at least by when I was watching this movie, is that the screenwriting team who wrote this, they, they did 10 Things I Hate About You, and
Yeah,
that like if we can go into like Shakespeare adaptation, that actually like they are able to capture the Shakespeare like wit and tone and like the way kids talk in that or the way teens talk in that movie. I don't know.
yeah,
It's kind of shocking that the same team that wrote that wrote this, and
yeah. I
it like I agree with the critic. Like it did not capture the wit. Like this, if you were to tell me this is based on a Shakespeare play, I would have been like, oh,
I would
it
never
all
know.
it's only in literally name only with Sebastian and Viola.
Well,
Hmm.
yeah, the characters' names, right? Like Duke, like the
Duke.
Duke
Duke
of whatever.
Orsino.
His name's Duke, and then even I guess the high school name, right? Like that's
Illyria. Yeah.
Illyria. And then also like some of the plot elements, right? Like I could tell that scene where they're on that double date, right? And like Olivia is going out with Duke to make the Sebastian like non-character jealous, and that, you know what I mean? Like that whole web that gets like that tangled web of that double date. I could see that being drawn from a Shakespeare play because he always has these like complicated situations. But and yeah, I mean, in terms of wit, you look for Shakespeare's dialogue for wit, and of course, like this is a 2000s comedy level of dialogue, so of course it's not going to be the same amount of wit. Like loosely inspired by is like the best way to put this, and
Very loosely.
even that is like kind of
And
questionable.
we're going low brow here, like low brow.
Oh,
They do quote Shakespeare at the end, though. I don't know if we're moving to the end, but they do
oh
quote
yeah.
Shakespeare, but it's not Twelfth Night. It
Oh,
is
they don't even
Julius
like
Caesar.
they quote the wrong Shakespeare
Yeah.
play at the end,
They
which
do Channing Tatum. He has that speech, like before this, well, like halftime of the soccer game, he goes, "Some are born great." I'm like, oh yeah, Channing Tatum. You get,
oh yeah, that's right. He
you
does. I was like
quote.
wondering why is he saying that, and it's like
He's
oh,
like
because that's also from Shakespeare,
from
even though
Shakespeare,
that's not even from another Shakespeare play. It's from like a Shakespeare drama.
from
Like it was
tragedy. Yeah,
from a tragedy. It's like wrong genre, wrong play.
but that's why this
Uh,
film is perfect. It's Channing Tatum quoting Shakespeare. When are you? I would pay good money to see Channing Tatum in a Shakespeare play. Come on.
I just
As
like the
Macbeth?
idea. I love the
Magic
idea
Mike
of
3,
like
that's gonna happen. Magic Mike.
that is Shakespearean. I just love the idea of like marketing this as a Shakespeare adaptation when it is like, anyone who thinks they're going into like a modern Shakespeare adaptation is like not really going to get anything near close to that, really. I mean, like, why even? I'm curious why even make it like based on, quote unquote, like based on Twelfth Night, when you can just do a movie about a girl who disguises
Exactly.
herself as a boy to play soccer. Like, why
Yeah.
even have the same names as the characters? Just make it like an original, like, cross-dressing movie.
Yeah, to be honest, like I was a theater nerd, in high school when this came out, and I didn't even know it was 12th Night until like maybe years later, and I just went to go see it because I was like, Amanda Bynes, come on, like that's
Yeah.
the only reason why I saw it.
Oh, that was a big appeal for like our generation, right? I mean, we all grew up with Amanda Bynes. Is that
Amanda
correct? Like
Show, yeah,
all
all
Yeah.
that,
that. I
right? She was the
mean,
Big
breakout
Fat
star.
Liar.
Big
Yeah,
Fat Liar.
that was her
What a Girl
first
Wants.
movie. Yeah, she had her CW sitcom as well. She had a few other comedies coming out. Like, what was the one where like Colin Farrell is her father?
What a Girl Wants.
That's what a
another
girl
good
wants.
one.
No,
I'm
Colin
here for
Firth.
Amanda Bynes.
Colin Firth.
Colin Firth. Wrong Colin F. I'm sorry.
I'm thinking like a Boston gangster or Irish
Yeah.
gangster. I'm like, wait a minute,
Colin
yeah, Colin Firth.
Firth. My mistake.
JJ, you know what? Like I get mixed up. It's like who's who's the best Chris Pratt? Or like like
You have so many
Collins are the
C
same.
names. Too many Chris's, too many Collins. But yeah, she had her. What I Like About You was her sitcom, and What a Girl Wants was like another movie she was in.
Horatio Gold, headmaster. So very pleased to meet you. So very, very pleased.
Hello, sir. Heard you wanted to see me.
I'd like to say welcome. Welcome to Illyria. Welcome, 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 welcome to Illyria. I just wanted to have you in to say welcome. See how you're doing.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Just busy being a guy.
Being a guy. Yeah.
I was always excited to see her see her career like blossom out of like the Nickelodeon and into like these other things. So I could see that appeal for sure. I mean, it makes sense to me that like she would like elevate this movie comedically because she has all that like, from since she was a little kid doing like comedy and all that in the Amanda Show. I mean, the Amanda Show is like legendary in my mind. Like that show is just like so absurdly hilarious. So many iconic characters. So, her comedic timing, her physicality and everything, I think that it pays off. You can see that she is like seasoned in this kind of comedic performance.
Yeah, it's interesting, Keith, that you said like this was like a bad SNL sketch that like ran bad because like for me, Amanda Bynes was, from the Amanda Show and kind of took her comedy and put it into this film, which like has everything, like, her physical comedy that JJ mentioned, like her facial expressions, her vocals, like are so like her levels of vocals, like her, just the way her inflections is like sketch comedy for me.
Yeah,
And
her
that's
voice
what-
work too.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you say it's a bad SNL sketch. What if you can maybe say it's like a much better Nickelodeon sketch?
Yeah.
Okay, this might be an unpopular opinion. I would appreciate anyone reaching out to me telling me I'm wrong or that I'm right.
You're wrong.
While I do agree that Amanda Bynes elevates the material, I do think the movie lets her down though. I don't think this was the right movie to showcase all of in my opinion, and I think just Amanda Bynes does work better in sketch, and I think her best strengths are when she's working with someone else, whether it's Drake, Josh, Frankie Muniz. I don't think What Women Want did that well, or
What a Girl Wants.
What a Girl Wants.
Totally different movie.
What a Girl Wants did that well in the it didn't do that well critically or the
Well, What a Girl
financially,
Wants is more of a coming of age, right? Like,
know,
that
but
I don't
it-
think it's like a slapsticky.
but it
romantic
wasn't the right
comedy.
it maybe wasn't the right vehicle with her. I haven't seen it. Who's to say?
It's on Netflix.
But she like
Come
I
on.
remember her as like the mean bully bitch character in Easy A. I'm like,
Oh
I
yeah.
Yeah.
she was really great in that. I just and see I the sometimes like her best moments in this was when she's working with Channing Tatum, who she actually fought.
Hmm.
She actually said, "I want him in this movie because I think they had the chemistry. I think that she kind of had a crush on him
Hmm.
during it.
I mean,
it
who
Well,
wouldn't?
I know,
I wouldn't blame her.
but it shows, and he actually has like the comedic chops without necessarily being the comedic character. He actually has the
Hmm.
finesse, but like the I don't maybe go for like the goofy facial expressions all the time and then talking to yourself like, "Uh-oh, I need to use the shower." I get it, you're saying it to the audience, but I Miss Doubtfire is this movie and it did it so much better, and that's 93.
But
And I
it's
know that's Robin
different.
Williams, but I know, but it's the one scene that comes to mind is the and Miss Doubtfire happened to be one of my random quarantine watches. I don't know how, I don't but the scene where Robin Williams is going back and forth between the dinner and his boss in
Oh,
the
you get
restaurant
that in this
Perfect.
movie too, right?
Yeah.
In the
at
carnival
In the
scene.
at the
carnival scene.
random car, like, oh, your mom and our moms are a part of this out of nowhere club. I did it have to be a carnival? Did it have like I don't know? It could.
Well, yeah,
Had to
it
have a
did have
kissing
to be.
booth.
You had to have a carnival because then she had to get like changed in all these different rides, right? I thought that was me being like, wow, this movie. If I didn't think it can get more preposterous, like when she gets changed in that tilt-a-whirl, I
The
thought that was
World.
funny. And but the best when she gets changed in that porta potty, like she goes into the porta potty dressed as a boy, comes out a second later flawlessly dressed as a girl, like no problem at all. I thought I howled when that happened. It was like so seamless.
I
Like
get it.
logistically, as a girl thinking about it, I was like, whoa. I was like, she has some serious skill. Because let me tell you, putting on that tight tube dress in a porta potty, I would like
Ugh, gross.
tip over. Like, and tilt the world. I was like, logistically, I was like, how does she actually do this? Because
It's like that's like
not
movie
physically
magic at
possible.
that point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
like
movie
that's
magic right there.
even more suspension of
Heath, it's
disbelief.
so funny that you mentioned Mrs. Doubtfire because maybe I have a thing for cross-dressing movies because Mrs. Doubtfire is actually my favorite film of all time.
That no,
Of all
I
time.
think
And then She's the Man.
that
Oh
movie,
yeah.
but it's not even like Robin Williams. I think the scenarios and just like the directing, the writing, and of course Robin Williams elevating the material.
Well, also that movie has more at stake, right? This is about a man who wants to spend more time with his
To
children.
lose his kids.
Yeah, just and then this is about a girl who wants to play soccer.
That
Like
that being
you can
said,
kind of like invest more in one than the other.
that being said, if you like having loved Miss Doubtfire and still love it, if you take a step back, like this guy's nuts. Like
Oh
he's
yeah,
absolutely nuts.
absolutely.
And but it's I just thought like the scenarios were too cartoonish for me.
Too
Too
cartoonish. Okay.
cartoonish. And but I know I'm looking at the reviews, the audience reviews, 79%. I'm the bad
Yeah.
guy. I am in the outs of this.
How
I
dare you
get
have
it
an
without
opinion?
getting it. I get it without getting it.
Okay. Well, like cartoony is a good word too because I feel like the music, like not the soundtrack, which we can get into later, but like the score, like the actual score of the movie is so also over the top. Like you
Mhm.
get like these like really, and I feel like I've heard this in other these kind of scores in other 2000s comedies of the same sort of lowbrow level of just like over the top scores that try to like overly emphasize like how ridiculous a scenario is, right? And I kind of enjoy that from maybe like just an ironic point of view. Maybe I'm not sure. Maybe I genuinely enjoy it at this point. I don't know. This movie makes me question if I like am laughing with it or at it. But like yeah, that kind of even makes it more like removed from reality, right? Like that was kind of the idea.
Wacky hijinks.
Yeah, no, exactly. This is all like insane hijinks. I mean, like the other like silly 2000s movies. I feel like this falls in the same tradition of is like something like you know the hot chick or something.
Mm-hmm.
Euro Trip, like what's some other good ones?
All the
Just like
classics. These are
movies you
like my
don't get
favorite.
anymore. You
This
don't
is like
get
my
this.
prime right here. Like
Yeah.
She's the Man, Euro Trip. Like these are like yeah, you can't really I mean, can't really make like a film like Eurotrip nowadays.
No.
But even with like She's the Man, though, I will say, like, I mean, I've watched it many times. It's probably one of the films I've actually watched the most. But like, in terms of like gender roles and like just, I mean, yeah, we say it's, you know, just a girl wants to play soccer, but at the big deal, a guy tells her, no, you can't do something. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to prove to you that I can do it. And I think it's like the gender role theme is very interesting, and like how like Channing Tatum, though he is a jock and a bro, he is very sensitive, and he's like, why do you talk about girls in such graphic terms, like, and then, you know, it's just like she is better than the boy, like she's a douchebag boyfriend, and she's like, you know what, I don't care, I don't need you, bye. Like when she's like at the carnival, that's like my favorite moment. She's like, oh, he's like, can I just talk to you for 5 seconds? And she's like, it's a podcast, but I'm like, she puts up her 5 fingers and she's like, I basically hate you, and then slaps him. I'm like, I was like giving slaps. It's like, you go, girl. Like,
I kind of wish I got more of the Viola character being herself, because at the beginning she's like standing up to her boyfriend, and she's like very quick to just try to get what she wants. Like she's very like fearless in a way. She's like, you know, standing up to the boys soccer coach. She's standing up to her mom. You know, she's like, she doesn't take no for an answer, basically. I'm like, wow, this character is like, you know, very rootable. I kind of want her just more as herself.
yeah, like all her mom wants is her to be a lady, and quote unquote, what is a lady? She is a girl, you know, she's the girl that wants to play soccer, but there's like the debutantes, like she has
The
to
debutante
be
ball.
the debutantes, and then, you know, like what are our gender roles essentially this movie's asking. So I think maybe this movie's ahead of its time, okay?
Okay.
I don't know if anyone caught this. I don't know if you caught this, Sabrina, but her boyfriend or her ex-boyfriend, uh, you basically had a step up pre-union because he was the
Oh,
lead
he was in that
character
too?
in Step Up
Yeah.
2. He was the lead in Step Up 2, which
Oh,
I
okay.
am a step up. I step up to the streets. I
Yeah, okay.
no, when we cover that movie, I actually probably will be favorable to it. But I'm such an asshole for thinking. But it's why I agree with the mess. I actually do agree with you that the message is pretty good. Don't you think it's a little bit clunky or toxic-ish to get there? I
Well,
I don't know. I don't know.
I could maybe see, like, you know, just to play like, you know, the counterpoint here. I could maybe see like maybe the movie doesn't take its message seriously enough. Like, you know, I totally love the idea that she wants to like show everyone that she's as good of a soccer player as anyone else. You know, the movie's a bit hammy about like driving that point through. Like the coach or the boyfriend, even the boyfriend in the beginning, it's like this overly cliched, like misogynistic guy who's like, you know, oh, girls aren't as good as boys at like, you know, they're not as strong or smart. It's science. And I'm like, oh, he is genuinely saying that, like if, as if anyone would be that like forward about like their sexist opinions these days.
He has a pop collar, okay? Like in that carnival scene, I was like, whoa. I was like,
He's like the poster boy for these like sexist 2000s bros,
yeah.
you know, who totally existed. But, you know, again, like this is an extreme version of that. So maybe there could be something to be said, like really great message and intention, and it gets it across for sure. But maybe like there could be something to be said about taking a message that is so important, maybe just taking it a little more seriously, you know, and
Yeah.
not being so like insane about it.
But then again, it's a comedy, so, you know,
Yeah,
little.
that's true.
And this was the early 2000s, so a little bit here and there, you know, like
Yeah.
sprinkling, you know, feminism around it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
maybe planting the seeds for it.
Plant
for
the
sure.
seeds, and, you know, maybe we'll get there. But at the end of the day, you know, it is a comedy, and we're laughing
I
at
did.
her
I liked.
in a way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That way, I loved the one scene where she's like fidgeting with the wig, right? And I'm like, oh my god, that looks so ridiculous. And she, David Cross shows up, and of course, David Cross is like, you know, your idiot principal who is totally aloof about everything. And
He's Tobias Funke, the principal.
Bias.
Like
yeah,
he's basically
basically.
yeah.
This was like, I think, just as Arrested Development was like ending or about to end,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, that was great. He's like really good at playing these like idiot characters. So I liked him. I mean, he had a moment that I laughed a lot when he's like serving her food, and then the next kid comes up. It's like, "Can I get a sandwich?" And he just goes, "No."
But the
Like,
great thing was he's like, have a great apple and sandwich. Like he like apparently I read that he just of course came across like ad-libbing everything, you know. So
sure, yeah, I would totally allow him to just have like free range,
just like go at
'cause
it.
he's so brilliant comedically. I liked how the other coach, the coach for the private school, Vinnie Jones,
Yeah.
is like immediately accepting of Viola, like a girl. Like he has no qualms with her playing on the team. And I'm like, okay, I guess not every, soccer coach is going to be like a sexist jerk. Which I thought was interesting because Vinnie Jones, another staple of 2000s comedies, right? He's like,
Eurotrip.
he was like, if for some reason a lot of 2000s comedies had a part of an angry, scary British man, and Vinnie Jones was your guy. Like, sure. And every time I would ever see him in a movie, I'd get a little scared, like because he's a scary looking guy. He always looks like he's about to bite someone's face off. But in this movie, he's like way more tamed, and like I was like, oh, okay, Vinnie Jones, like supportive of a girl on his soccer team, right on.
It's great. Yeah, he like rips up the manual. I'm like, he's like, what manual? You know, it was like so good. And also,
Damn
why is
Americans.
this British dude? I don't even know where this like Illyria is in the United States, but like what brought this like mean looking British Cockney dude to this town of Illyria? I want to know his backstory. Like what, why is
Was
he
he
here?
not? Was he? I suspect he was not good enough to teach soccer anywhere in England where they take it more seriously. So he had no choice but to go to like some private school in America, and he's like still trying to call it football, and no one else calls it football. Like, I got a kick out of that.
So good.
Was it just or like I was it just me or did she come up with the plan to be her brother very quickly? And not only quickly, I
Immediately.
feel like I
Immediately.
missed a beat where she's like, I'm gonna dress up like my brother. She looks at the mirror and goes like, let's do this. And I'm like, wait a minute. I think I rewinded it, and I'm like, wait a minute, he's
It's
gone. And she's like, I'm
yeah.
gonna do this. I have
It's
two
almost
weeks.
as if this is something she's thought about doing before. And when her brother says, like, oh, I'm leaving to London for 2 weeks, it's almost as if she's like, oh, now's my chance to finally do this thing that I've thought about doing, disguising myself as my brother and, like, getting the wig and stuff. Oh, and then another great, like, staple of 2000s comedies, the montage of her getting ready to do her crazy scheme, the makeover,
The makeover montage.
like learning to do the mannerisms, copying random guys on the street who are like, "What is this girl doing?" Like mimicking me.
Yeah.
Great,
Overlay
great
with
stuff.
an amazing soundtrack, an amazing like
Yeah.
2000 early angsty, you know.
Oh,
Super angsty.
when Dirty Little Secret came on, I'm like, all right, this is my high school. This
Yeah.
is my high school.
That song was like perfect for this movie, right? Of the time, sums up like she's got a dirty little secret.
Yeah, the soundtrack literally, I think the soundtrack of this movie is absolutely fantastic. And it was so good when this movie came out. I actually downloaded the album. Like, I bought the She's the Man album soundtrack
Nice.
from iTunes Store, and I have it on my iPod. So that's
Your
how like,
iPad, you carry on your iPad listening to the She's the Man soundtrack
Yeah.
during your days.
I'm aging myself, but like downloaded, bought it on iTunes for what it was, $12.99, and put it on my
Totally
iPod
worth it.
4.
Yeah. Like you might as well. I'm sure it's like just a compilation of whatever like big like 2000s like rock songs were at the time. So you might as well like just call it like now that's what I call music 16 or something, whatever it was at the time.
Totally was.
Anyway, do you know when soccer tryouts start?
Noon. You play?
Absolutely. Center forward. You know it, brah. So, you play the beautiful game? Bro? Brothers? Brethren?
Yeah, I'm a striker. Andrew and Toby are halfbacks.
Sweet!
Okay, why do you have tampons in your boot?
I get really bad nosebleeds.
So you stick them up your nose?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. So you have like these other characters in this movie, right? So we touched on the Monique character, right? The bitchy girlfriend of Sebastian. And what I like about her is that they give her pretty much the worst comebacks in movie history. Like when Amanda Bynes says like your number is 1-800-biatch, her comeback is meh, 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 meh. Like wow.
She's
Talk about
constantly
losing.
like yelping. She's like, "Ew!" It's like Sebastian,
Like
Sebastian.
yipping like a little chihuahua or something.
She did have a really good line, and rewatching it for the podcast, I was like, oh, I need to write this down because actually there was one good line. Can I curse on this? Or
Absolutely. Go for it.
She's like, when, a guy approaches her after, Sebastian, Amanda Bynes is like hitting on her friends. The guy goes, hey, one of the friends of Channing Tatum's goes, hey. And she goes, ew, ew, ew. She's like, I'm sorry, with girls, like with asses like mine, do not talk to boys with faces like yours. I was like, oh.
That was harsh.
I was like, oh, that is so good. I need to like put that in the back of my mind for like just in case.
Next time you get like some like jerky guy, like trying to like make a move or something, just bring out that line. They'll
Girls
shut him
with
down.
asses like mine do not talk to guys with faces like yours. Like that's pretty brilliant. Like,
That's pretty humiliating for that guy.
That's pretty harsh.
So they had her, and then you had the Olivia character, who again probably only exists because she's from the play Twelfth Night. And they have that fight scene, and I thought that physical cat fight scene in the bathroom was like really poorly choreographed, right? They're just kind of just jumping on top of each other. I'm like, oh man, this movie had so many great physical comedic moments before, and now you have this like fight scene that is just like a mess. I was a little disappointed in that fight scene.
I love the fight scene because it's like girls dressed in heels. It's just like the stakes of it because they're at this like debutante dinner or luncheon and they're supposed to act quote unquote ladylike. And here they are, like, and I love the way prior to the fight scene where, this girl Olivia's talking to Amanda Bynes and doesn't know who she is. And she's talking about her. And she's like, he's like beautiful, but I'm like a masculine way. And Amanda Bynes, brilliant comedic genius.
Yeah.
She's literally looking in the mirror and she's like, oh yeah, I am beautiful,
She's like going back and forth, like she's torn as whether she should be like flattered or horrified that this girl is like into her like male disguised persona. I also really like her like chicken leg eating earlier in that scene.
That's my favorite scene.
She's just like chomping away like an insane person. And
I use that
like,
gif all the time because I again love this movie, but like that gif of her like eating that chicken wing and then that the woman like pans like into the frame and she's like, chew like you have a secret, and she's like, she's just like grunting.
I've never heard that sounds like an actual advice. Like I never heard of that, like chew like you have a secret, but it sounds like something they would tell a young lady, which kind of makes no sense at all.
Makes no sense. Or like at the end of the fight scene, that lady comes back and she's like, when debutantes disagree, they say it with their eyes. I'm like, what are these lines?
What does that mean? Say it with your eyes. Just like give like a death stare, I guess.
Yeah.
So you have those characters. I kind of liked Duke's like weird friends, his like bro-y friends. Like
Toby.
you have the one guy who was into Eunice, and I feel bad. The Eunice character was like a little overplayed for me.
Oh my! The one character that actress gave it her all. The one character
You liked Eunice?
I was trying to think of her name.
Eunice,
and,
yeah.
They give her like
Eunice,
I'm sorry if your name is like they give her that name and with that with the braces, it's just like
the headgear.
Another like over the top character, right? Like the super nerdy, awkward, weird girl. But like they played her too much. Like she was on screen way too many times. Like if they just kind of like were more conservative with her, I feel like that joke would have made more sense. But like they have her on screen so much, I'm like, all right, I get it with this girl. She's like nuts.
JJ, I wanted her more.
Yeah.
You wanted more?
Yeah,
oh,
I wanted
man.
more. I love Eunice. Eunice is like my favorite character. She's so good.
Well, she winds up with like the one friend, one of Troy's friends, or one of
Toby.
Duke's friends. Yeah, she winds up with Toby, and I also howled at the one line that he has during that double date where it's like, oh wow, Eunice is like going up, like, you know, on a date with Sebastian, and like Toby's like, you guys gave me crap when I was into Eunice, and then he just has this crazy line where he goes, oh, I hate high school.
Screw you guys. Yeah.
You know, like, oh man, this guy's really worked up over Eunice. I only remember Eunice's name because Eunice actually is the same name as my favorite resident on Animal Crossing. For anyone out there who plays that game, so I was like, okay, yeah, Eunice, I'll root for her.
But JJ, do you and we've talked about this kind of thing before on the podcast. Do you think it was a case of the actress kind of was funny and everyone like they just gave her more stuff to go with?
Possibly,
That probably is
I
right.
because she earned that. I totally
Okay.
that was if this movie had highlights for me, Eunice and that actress who I don't know her name, she was a highlight.
Yeah,
I
this
can
gave
see,
100% in her
yeah.
role.
No, she gave it her all, and it was like appropriate for the movie. Like she knew what movie she was in, and she was giving this like insane performance.
Exactly.
Like the scene I can see like them adding in when they're like, oh, she's doing really great, let's give her more, is when you know, when Sebastian or Viola as Sebastian gets kicked out of her room and she has nowhere to stay, and then like, you know, she runs into Eunice and Eunice is like, you can stay with me. Like I can totally see that being added in later on. Like,
I
okay,
like all the cheeses.
Oh, geez. Also,
then
she
the
was
next
like walking backwards. I don't know. I that always like a question. I was like, what is she doing? I know she's exercising, but she's like 1001. Like she's just like what
just
is she
being
doing?
weird.
She's like, we have to get her into the scene somehow. So she's just gonna shimmy on it,
Yes,
moonwalk
slither her
in.
way into frame. And then the next morning when it's like, Eunice, why didn't you wake me up? And then she's like, you look so peaceful. I made
You look so
breakfast.
serene.
Yeah, ugh. It's
I
like,
made
damn it,
breakfast,
Eunice.
darling. I mean, my friends and I, again, obsessed with this film. So we quote this movie quite often, and most of the quotable stuff that we do is Eunice's lines because
Yeah.
her lines are amazing. Like, I made breakfast, darling. I'm
Darling.
so there. It's insane. Like, she always like whispers it too, but with so much intensity, like
That
in the
creeped me out.
creepiest way. Yeah.
That whispering really like freaked me out after a while. I can actually maybe see this being like maybe a fun group costume for Halloween or something for people who would get the reference. Like you have not Keith's shaking his head, but you have someone like a girl dressed as like the Viola as Sebastian character, someone as Eunice. You know, I think that could be a fun group costume.
Gotta find
now
a
that I
Channing
think about it.
Tatum.
Yeah, exactly.
Channing Tatum. You put a tampon in your nose. I think that's brilliant. I mean, you
For some
can't.
reason, I knew of that joke, and for some reason, I thought they would bring it back again. You know, like all of for some reason, I thought there was a scene in this movie where like all these guys have tampons up their noses or something because they're all like Viola accidentally started this new phenomenon of like tampons as tissues or something. So I
I
thought
love
they'd do
her
that more.
explaining like the tampon application. She's like, whatever this is for. Like, it's just like so
I love
good.
when the guys first see the tampons come out of like her bag. They immediately all see it and they immediately go, "What?"
I'm like, oh my God, what is that? You know, like it's like I don't know, like she had like drugs or guns or something. She's so freaked out over
They
it.
immediately are like, "What the hell is this?" That was pretty good.
Sabrina, I have a question. Because when I was doing research and just looking at reviews for this movie, I a lot of people, a lot of the audience, being at the score that it is, share your sentiment. I'm still trying. How did this movie ended up becoming one of your favorite? I'm so like curious about that.
I
Like,
think, you know what? I think the love for Amanda Bynes for sure because it
Yeah.
runs deep. I mean, I'm a girl born in 1990, so like early 2000s, like Amanda Bynes is like a treasure. You know, you have like so many 90s and 2000 icons, and Amanda Bynes is definitely like one of them. And I think it just resonated as like a girl like in high school, and just it was fun movie. Like it's just feel good. You feel good watching it, and I think watching it over and over again with my like sisters and my friends, it kind of just like became part of like our vernacular. Like I just love this movie so much. Like it just feels good. I rewatched it for this podcast, and I was cackling the whole time. I just felt good, you know.
I think I mentioned this on a recent episode we had, but when it comes to rewatchability of comedies, I feel like the key ingredient for that is likable characters that you want to keep seeing over and over again. And Amanda Bynes on her own is so funny and charming. I feel like she's enough to go back to this movie and over again if you enjoy it that much. You know, like again, the Eunice character too. You know, over time could be one that you want to go back to as well. But like I said, Amanda Bynes elevates the movie, and if you're sold on this movie and you're sold on her, she's enough to want to keep revisiting this time and time again.
The secondary characters are so good too. Like everyone in the cast is amazing. Like
David Cross, we mentioned.
the guy, the creepy blonde guy, Marvolio.
Oh yes,
with the tarantula. He's even great. Like
we didn't talk about him. Like what was his name again? Marvolio was his spider. Malcolm. Okay.
Marvolio was his spider, which is clearly a Shakespearean name.
I know.
I was just about to say.
They threw that in.
Yeah, like another random Shakespeare ingredient. But with the Malcolm character, he also is just nuts. He also like for some he is spying on Viola as Sebastian without having any idea or suspicion or reason to be suspicious of her at that point.
Yeah.
Given this movie, like everyone should be suspicious of her, but given this movie, like he has no reason to be suspicious of her, and he's for some reason just like spying on her with binoculars and cameras and stuff, and he's already like just like a character that seems to be an antagonist with no rhyme or reason. He just is like constantly, except he likes he likes like, Olivia,
stalking her.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, this is the making of a serial killer right now. Like looking back, I was like, oh.
Yeah,
he's just this character that's just like aimlessly trying to like just keep being like an obstacle, right, for Viola / Sebastian, but without really any purpose at all. I'm like, what is this guy's deal? Like, what is this? He's constantly acting like crazier than like this Sebastian impersonation. He's even crazier than that.
He is the friend zone guy, like amped up to 11. Does he get? I mean, does he get like a comeuppance? I mean, he does get like a "I told you so," but I feel like could you have taken him out of the movie and things?
I think you could have, because she kind of reveals herself, right? Yeah. Like I maybe to add more tension, right. Like, you know, they have like Monique and Malcolm figure it out together, up, right? Yeah. And then it's like, oh no, right before the big game, they're about to like figure it out. But again, Viola winds up revealing herself, so that was not even necessary. You could have removed him from the movie because like
literally reveals herself. She literally shows her boobs. I love it. I actually like love that, and she's like, I don't care. Like, of course, like
that's
her brother.
She's such a bold character. She doesn't care. It's like, yeah, I'm a girl. Like, see, and it's like, whoa. Yeah. You could have. I don't think the Malcolm character adds anything comedically to the movie, really.
He does have one of my favorite things, though. Like when they're in the lab, she's like, "Oh, these lyrics are so beautiful," talking about Sebastian Hastings' lyrics, and he's like, "Olivia, I write too," and then he like starts singing like, "I see you through your window. I'm standing out on a tree outside," and he's like, like it's just like Boys to Men. Like,
I love how unaware he was of how like unbelievably creepy and incriminating those lyrics were.
Stalker. Phil Collins, I'm watching you kind of thing. But I thought like that's brilliant. Like that makes me
that's maybe one moment for him. That's and otherwise just saving sort grace. Of like, he's like pleading with the David Cross character, please, and like of course David Cross is not going to listen to him. That's kind of all he has to do in this movie is be like, there's something weird going on. Everyone being like, whatever. No one cares.
No one cares about him. They push him off to the side at the end of the movie. They're like, okay. He's like, I told you so, and they're like, all right, bye. Goodbye.
Oh yeah, exactly. Another actress I recognize in this movie is Julie Haggerty as the mom.
She's so good in this movie.
And I'm like, oh, like that's to me always going to be the woman from Airplane, right?
Yes.
Like we all know that movie. So she's in this, and like again, her character is like kind of nuts. Like at the end, I guess the parents are reasonably like confused. Like, what do you mean you were off in London for 2 weeks? What do you mean you were disguised as the boy? What's going on? Like, but then they're quick to forgive, I guess, like everything that's gone down, like as I would expect from this movie. Like all is quickly forgiven
What
for
was the
all
line
wrongdoings.
that the dad says? Like, this is a lot more nudity at any soccer game that I've seen, or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like that.
They even
Okay, that
imply
that was a
they
funny.
even
But
they even imply that the parents are going to get back together at
Yeah,
the
I was
end,
like,
right?
oh,
Is that
okay.
implied?
Yeah, it was implied. I was like,
I feel
okay.
bad. I think Julie Haggerty is a really funny actress. Obviously, like just from knowing Airplane, I wish she had maybe like was more than just this like stereotypically like ignorant and like not ignorant as in like racist or anything. Ignorant as in like she had no idea what's
airheaded.
going on. Yeah,
Yeah,
airheaded, dumb,
delusional,
out of the
sad,
loop
like,
mom. Right?
yeah,
She's just
she was
this prissy
aloof.
mom, who has this really weird moment where she's like fantasizing about her daughter's ex-boyfriend, right? Like that was a weird moment. She
She's like,
kind
why
of has
don't
a
you
moment. She's
date
like,
him?
she's like, I don't know. Oh,
She's
never
like, oh,
mind.
no. Yeah, she's
She
like,
thinks
that
about
was
it for a
good.
second.
That
Uh,
was a really good moment for her.
since we're giving shout outs, that one pleasant surprise was if any of you all out there or in here watches Silicon Valley, one of Amanda Bynes's Viola's friends, Amanda Crew. That it was, I think that was like one of her first roles, and she is
Yeah,
the one of the
that's
characters on
right.
Silicon Valley, and that was just like, oh, that made me
Yeah,
go, oh.
one of her friends that like helps her out. She pretends to get shot down by her slash him in like the restaurant. I recognized her also from like I think she was in like Final Destination 3 randomly, and like this was a time where she was like randomly popping up as like tertiary character number 3 or something, and like eventually working her way up. um I like seeing that. I like kind of seeing like the beginnings of some people's careers, like Channing Tatum, for example, more
And Dan,
recognizable.
yeah.
It's like, oh, this is like the very beginning for him. He was just a baby, and like look where he is now.
Look where he is now. Yeah.
So, do you like her?
I don't know. Can we not talk about this? It's I don't know if she's your sister. It's kind of weird.
No, right. Just, I was just thinking that you liked her, then maybe you should ask her out.
And just I don't know, forget about Olivia?
Well, I mean, speaking as a completely objective third-party outsider with absolutely no personal interest in the matter, I am not sure that you and Olivia really mesh well together, I mean, but you and Viola, be magic.
I don't know.
What does your heart tell you?
Huh?
I mean, which one would you rather see naked?
It
Yeah.
seems like these kind of movies are usually like vehicles for like actors who are like getting to they're on their way to bigger and better things, right? Like they're just kind of adding to their resume, getting used to like being an actor and so forth. And we don't have to get really into it or anything, but with Amanda Bynes, she was on her way there, and it didn't work out, and unfortunately she spiraled out. She seems to be getting better or being in a better place now, which is good, right?
That's
Like
great.
I'm happy that she is like in a better place for sure. Because like I said, it was great to see her blossoming on her way there too. This could have been just like one step towards what could have been, a big film career for her. So, but we will still always have this,
Yeah,
for
it's
all
like
her
a good-
Amanda.
This
Yeah.
is a really good time capsule of like early 2000s, just because like Amanda Bynes, I think, is at the top of her game, but also like the music, the fashion in it
Yeah,
too, like the Juicy
fashion.
Couture, like track suits, like even the guys' fashion, like we're like, whew, we're like so 2000s, like the low rise jeans, the belts, the chunky belts, the Coach purses. This is like very like very nostalgic. That's also another reason why I love this film so much too. Is like very nostalgia for me.
I mean, you were probably like the exact demographic or targeted demographic for this movie when it came out, right? Like they're going to go after like teens, young teens, again, who know Amanda Bynes, and this is going to be the humor that appeals to you and give you like this, like, like empowering sort of message, right? So
Sold.
this is like a formula made for someone just like you, and it worked. So I think that's like, it's probably a generational thing. I don't know if like kids now will discover this movie and it'll resonate as much, right?
Yeah, I'd be very curious to see how people like now would take this film, like someone who's 16 watching this in high school. Like, it's
Yeah, I don't know. Well, like
pre-Instagram. This is
get
pre-Instagram days.
pre-social media, right? I'm curious if like the way this message is handled in this movie still holds up, or if someone nowadays like would like demand like a more sort of respectful sort of like delivery of this message. I'm not sure,
Well,
how that would go over.
speaking of this like movie's legacy, and more so Amanda Bynes in general, I, throughout this podcast, it kind of just hit me. Who else was like a at this time? Who else was like a female comedian leading comedy actress? And I'm
Oh, that's
trying.
a good question.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I want
Like
to
this
say
is,
Lindsay Lohan, but maybe
She also
just
burnt
thinking.
out too, though.
I'm also thinking of the same track. I don't.
Yeah,
but like
that's the
this is
problem.
before like all those like this is before Bridesmaids, so Kristen Wiig. This is before Melissa McCarthy. This is before like I'm
The
trying to
thing
yeah.
is, a lot of those 2000s comedies were led by men,
Yeah.
right? Or sometimes like ensembles of men. And you're right, you didn't really have like a history of like a consistent like actress who led comedies, right? You kind of Lindsay Lohan in a couple, Amanda Bynes in a couple, Kristen Wiig in one or two. Like it has been very inconsistent, where you don't really have a face of comedy for women.
Especially
Like,
at this time.
How many movies did Will Ferrell star in during this decade? Like so many. Like, Ben Stiller. You had, when you think about these movies, you do usually think of the ones led by men, which is a shame, because like I think Amanda Bynes holds her own with all those other leading comedic actors. She like on her own made me laugh so many times, and
She really is this movie. I mean, we have like it's great secondary characters, but she's in every. I think she might be actually in every single scene. I'm trying to think of like.
Just
it's her
about.
story.
I want to say
There's
like
like a couple
95%.
scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple small scenes again with like the Malcolm and Principal character, maybe a couple scenes with like, I don't know, but any scene she's not in is very brief, right? It is like her story through and through.
Even with like David Cross and Malcolm, he's like he always has these odd jobs. Like he's the only person that works in.
That's right. He works at the cafeteria. He's trimming the hedges.
He's trimming the hedges.
Who is this guy?
Yeah, like even Malcolm approaches him and you see Amanda Bynes in the back and she's like, no, she's like, Mom, I will not wear a dress, like in her regular Viola voice. She's like, I will not wear a dress. No, I will not wear heels. And like she's just saying it's just a male invention to make a butt look smaller, plus it's difficult to run away. And then I love David Cross because he's like, have you ever tried to run in heels? Like he kind of alludes
the
to
Tobias character, that was really the Tobias character in that line. But I thought that was kind of crazy though, that she's being very careful not to give herself away as a girl, and yet in this scene she's very loudly talking on the phone about wearing a dress and having high heel shoes and stuff. I'm like, okay, I guess she's like totally forgetting like where she is or what she's trying to do.
Definitely whoever wrote this film like wrote it's harder for women to run away, and he's like, oh, that's a great line, let me try and like squeeze that line in wherever I can.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Amanda Bynes, she's always been on TV as long as I can remember, and I just wanted to bring. I thought I'd be remiss if, for us, our favorite like Amanda Bynes moments, just like to me this is like, making me nostalgic for all that and the Amanda Show, like just classic, comedy from my childhood. Do you guys have just in mind like a favorite sort of like Amanda Bynes moment in like either all that or in the Amanda Show that just comes to mind, where like this was like just shining, like a shining comedic star?
Wow, I love everything.
There's a lot to choose from.
A lot to choose from because she is an amazing. I love the girls' room that from the Amanda Show, like
that was great, and
not necessarily like Amanda, but her being in it. I love her introductions, like that's me, or like like the girls' room, like that kind of stuff. But like that whole like four people, like I love that sketch, and that girl who's like I like eggs. Like,
That
so
was a good, yeah, that show. I mean, as much as you had like Drake and Josh on that show, you also had like a lot of other like young girls given like comedic opportunities. I mean, all that had that as well. But yeah, like the girls' room, just a great moment for a great recurring sketch for just like four funny young girls, being able to showcase their comedic abilities.
Yeah, I think it's great. Like, I think in Nickelodeon, it was really great that like it was the Amanda show, like that was her show. And especially, I feel like, I mean, I was too young to watch SNL or was starting to watch SNL. And I do think like they talked about SNL being like the boys club and kind of, now there's a great resurgence, with like Tina Fey and Amy Poehler and all these things, but really looking at like as a, I feel like Nickelodeon like was run by Amanda Bynes in my head, but this
And
is
Lori
also
Beth.
yeah,
And
Lori
Lori
Beth
Beth.
too.
And Lori Beth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
she was also a shining star on all that. I think Nickelodeon was like ahead of the curve in terms of comedy, at least the way they geared it towards kids, because all that was very diverse when it came out. In was like 1994 and 95. Like three of the cast members were African American, two of the cast members were Hispanic. And a cast of seven, right? Like they actually went out of their way to like have like a diverse cast of children on that show, and
and they were all equal too. Like I feel like it wasn't like the boys, like it was boy sketches, and I think it was a really good mix of things.
They went out of their way to make sure everyone had their like namesake sketch, and recurring characters and whatnot. And it's funny because Kenan and Kel had a spinoff that was like a traditional sitcom, but Amanda Bynes, her spinoff was another sketch show. Just because I guess they figured she's so good at this, let her just like hold one on her own, which she did.
And I feel like it was on air for a really long time. I'm trying to think because I mean, what is time? But
yeah,
trying to think.
When you're a kid, it feels like a long time. Maybe not so.
Could have run for 2 seasons. I don't even know, but like I would watch the Amanda Show all the time.
Yeah, same.
When it comes to I thought, even though it was on Nickelodeon, I thought the sketches were like on point sometimes. Like I still quote one thing that I say is like bring out the dancing lobsters. I just think that's it's a funny visual. But I like Moody's Point is
Moody's
genius.
Point.
Amanda Bynes
So
brought
good.
us the classic like pair of Drake Bell and Josh Peck. I thought and they spun off into their own show. But my favorite sketch is "It's Better, Much." I think that is
But you took mine, you
that.
son of a bitch.
That's worthy of like
Flop
Mad
booster.
TV or like like that. The idea of that, and I even like I am Spider-Man or like it's
Oh no, I bit by spider. I have web shooters now. Yeah, that was so freaking hilarious. Yeah, like
Good.
she was on that, and then actually, she was kind of the baby of all that, right? Like she comes on that show, and she's
Yes.
like the youngest cast member, and eventually becomes a breakout star. And then I remember this moment. I don't know if this was on purpose or staged, but remember the Kids' Choice Awards. There was a moment where like all that cast like won like the orange blimp, right, as it was, and Amanda Bynes drops it. Like she holds it and she drops it, and it breaks on the floor. And
I have to
maybe that was
YouTube this. I don't
staged.
remember this.
Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But I just remember as a kid being horrified by that. But then like that was like hilarious in and of itself. Like and maybe she just dropped it on purpose, and it wasn't like
Physical comedy.
a planned moment. But that for some reason like that just sticks out in my mind. Like she just was always like being funny, whether she meant to or not. She was just always like doing things that were hilarious.
Yeah, she's always funny, no matter what she did. Like I I admire her as a comedian.
Yeah, exactly. Like very inspiring for a lot of us who grew up with her.
Just because you wear a wig doesn't prove you're a girl.
Okay then.
Merciful Jesus. Is it just me, or does this soccer game have more nudity than most?
I think we can now get to the point where we give our final thoughts on She's the Man and our like ultimate percentage score, and then figure out where we stand with either the critics or audiences. So, Sabrina, what would start us off as our guest? What would your percentage score be and your final thoughts be?
Well,
for She's the
I
Man?
mean, it's clear from my love affair that I've talked about. She's the man. It definitely. I mean, that's why I'm not a critic, because I score things too high or too low, and I'm 100% giving this score 100%.
Oh my gosh,
Wow.
our first 100%
Ding,
score.
ding, ding, ding.
I mean, I absolutely adore this movie. I will always turn it on if like there's a few movies in my archive that I'll turn on if I, don't know what to watch, or, or just if I'm feeling blue, I can turn it on and feel good about it.
For
and
sure.
This is definitely She's the Man is one of them. Mrs. Doubtfire is another. So again, cross-dressing, I guess I love, but like these kind of genre films, like Superbad, all those kind of like coming of age high school stories, just really, really great. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of Shakespeare, which I love too, but yeah, I think it just is a feel good, fun movie. It's quotable in my head. I quote this movie 100%.
Yeah, you need that in a good comedy.
Great
Yeah,
cast,
good quotes.
great characters. 2000s, which is like our heyday, our prime, as you will.
Yeah,
But
for
yeah,
sure.
this movie just it's good. If you go into the film being like, I'm not going in to see highbrow, sophistication. You just go in to have fun, and it is fun. It's just a fun movie. Simple
Okay,
as that.
so-
It's very simple. Just
Yeah, for
easy
sure.
watch.
So 100%
100%.
perfect
Is
score.
that too high?
No, that's your honest opinion.
That's
That's,
your
what
honest-
we want.
I mean, it is one of my top films of all time. I love this film.
Great. We got the perfect person then to come on to talk about it.
I could start the movie right now. I can quote the whole movie. I really
That'll be like a bonus, like we maybe release later on, like
Yeah.
an extension of the episode is just Sabrina's reenactment through audio of She's the Man.
I do a great Channing Tatum voice.
Oh,
Great.
I believe it. I don't doubt it.
We'll get all our past guests to do a table read of that. Will be our bonus.
A table
Oh,
read.
wow.
Wait, I have a quick question too. Is 21 Jump Street divided? Because
I don't think it is.
because that film is brilliant. Like,
Yeah.
that's
I
such
agree
a
with
good
you on
film.
that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. That movie is great.
Clearly not
and that
divided.
was,
Everyone loves that film.
that might be another like generational one for us as college students, right?
Yeah.
Because that also came out while we were in college. Well, that was about high school, but still, like,
Yeah.
another one that our generation will always cherish.
And Channing Tatum's still playing high school student, even though he's like the joke is he's like, you're too old. He
Yeah.
was too old to play a high school student here, but
He was 26 when She's the Man was being made.
yeah, no one
but,
had
like,
that muscle to him.
No, but
as a
like
16-year-old.
that's a Hollywood thing. You cast like very old, much older actors as high school students.
Mm-hmm.
That's been done. That's been done with even older actors than him.
I think that's
He gets a
changing
pass.
now, though. I'm starting to see a lot of high school kids play high school kids.
Yeah.
Maybe
Now
it's just
you
me.
are-
Yeah.
Maybe now you are, because more high school films are being made by like independent studios that can like hire like less recognizable actors. But like for many decades, with like these mid budget movies where you got to get the stars, you're gonna get like much older actors.
I think they were in
than
their
high
late
school age.
30s for 90210. Like,
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I am aware of that. Yeah, that was probably the most egregious
Yeah.
age difference. So Keith, like, you seem to be on the opposite end of this.
before you get your pitchforks ready, folks, and Sabrina,
Boo!
I'm coming
Sabrina,
for you in the comments.
I can already see you lighting your pitchfork up. I actually really do appreciate this conversation because I don't disagree with the reasons why people love this movie. Like I think Amanda Bynes is actually really is funnier and is funny in it, but I think the movie kind of, in my opinion, lets her down. It could have been a lot more, but I do think I can understand all the positives people have about this movie. This just isn't the movie for this isn't this movie should have worked for me, and it didn't really.
Yeah.
That being said, talking about it more, I probably appreciate Amanda Bynes on a whole new. I just appreciate her more. I'm gonna a 40.
Come on.
It was lower in my head going in, but I raised it to a 40. I
It
know.
influenced you.
She's lighting her pitchforks now, folks. She's
Get
raising it.
him!
I am
You
the
know,
Frankenstein's monster. I'm
when
the
the
bad
pandemic's
guy.
over, you're gonna
Yeah.
come over and watch it with me. I don't know if you would want to watch it with me because I speak the lines as it comes out and then I
Sure.
do a little giggle. So it might not be the most enjoyable watch but
A
it's a
movie
good
with
group
friends,
watch.
I'll always accept a movie with friends. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt. So, yeah, as a newcomer, to this movie, I came with a blank slate, and a few things I do really appreciate about it is that it never takes its foot off the gas. Like, this movie is ridiculous, but it's full of energy, and it doesn't pull back its punches at all. Like, it doesn't try to become serious and sentimental towards the end. So I appreciate that, and also like a lot of 2000s comedies were kind of mean spirited in some regard, and this one isn't. I'm kind of glad that it avoided that. Sure, like the story is like ridiculous, and the writing, even for a movie that's trying to be ridiculous, the writing could be better. But as a vehicle for Amanda Bynes, I think that is where it succeeds for me. And again, as a comedy, I laughed a lot, and I don't remember the last time I laughed so much and so hard, and just from one person. So, I am going to give this one a 72.
That's good.
As just a successful comedy. It aims low. I think that's probably where I would subtract the most points. It's not a very ambitious movie at all. Not that it has
It's
to
not
be,
gonna
but
get an Oscar.
it doesn't have to be super ambitious, but it could have been a little more ambitious than what it was. It could have strived for like a little better than what it was. But everything else as a comedy, to me, it succeeds, and I probably would go back to it, which is another good sign of good comedy. So Keith, what is our average?
70.6.
Okay,
Do we put all our scores together?
You know what?
That's
Yes,
our average.
I
I
am
definitely
satisfied
pushed that
with
scale.
that. I am satisfied
You know,
with that. That is
I think that
that's a
works.
tomato.
That
That's a
is, with our three scores combined, we are officially siding with the audience on She's the Man.
Woo, 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 yeah. Audience
Keith,
knows best.
Yeah.
I am the outlier.
Sometimes, not all the time, but for this one. But I've been the outlier a couple times this past season, so now it's Keith's turn to feel the cold outside opinion.
We're only
I'm
9
coming
points
for
away
you
from.
in the comments.
We're only 9 points, 9 spots away from the audience score. So, like, yeah,
Yeah,
Pretty spot
def-
on.
yeah, we're pretty close to them how they feel. So we get it. We understand the people. But thank you for Sabrina for coming
yes,
on.
thank you so much. You were the perfect guest for this movie.
This was
Yeah.
so fun.
Sharing your love for She's the Man.
My favorite film.
And I'm sure you're not the only one. Hopefully we get like a pouring in of similar opinions,
yeah.
support for this movie.
I'm not the only one. I know we're not closeted.
There are dozens of you.
for sure.
Dozens.
There's
Perfect.
an army of us who love She's the Man, who are obsessed.
Yeah, and hopefully we're able to reach all of them. But we'll definitely want to get you back on again.
Yes.
Maybe not for a movie you love as much.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get one that you're more critical of. Who knows?
What a girl wants. No, more Amanda
Oh.
Bynes. Just the Amanda Bynes critic.
You're our Amanda Bynes correspondent.
Yeah.
Basically. But yeah, we'll see what that'll be. But until then, guys, thank you for listening, and join us again next time for another Divided Film. Thanks a lot. Bye.